Let me be real with you. If you've got less than $20,000 saved up right now, you're not safe. You're not stable. You're walking a financial tightrope with no safety net underneath. One job loss, one emergency, one unexpected life event, and you're back at zero. Or worse, in the red. And I get it, because I've been there. I remember sitting in my tiny apartment, bills stacked like a game of Jenga, afraid to even open my banking app. I was making just enough to survive, but never enough to feel secure. And I kept wondering, how did I get here? And more importantly, how do I get out? Here's the truth no one told me when I was broke. Being broke isn't always about not making enough. Sometimes it's about not managing what you already have. So today, I want to share with you the exact shifts, not just tips, but real mindset and behavior shifts that helped me crawl out of that place. If you're 30, 35, 40, or even beyond, and you're still not in control of your money, then this message is for you. Because the moment you take back control, everything starts to change. So, how do you do that? Let's start with step one, the no spend challenge, rewiring the habit. This is where everything started to shift for me. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't some viral TikTok hack, but it changed my life. Let me tell you the truth. When you're broke, it's not just your wallet that's empty, it's your mind too. You feel stuck, reactive, constantly putting out fires. I knew I had to do something radical, something that would shock my system. So I started what I now call the no spend challenge. For 30 days, I promised myself no spending outside of rent, gas, basic groceries, and bills. No takeout, no Amazon just because orders, no happy hour drinks, no random Target runs, no impulsive self care splurges. Just the basics, just survival. And let me tell you, the first week felt like withdrawal. You don't realize how emotionally addicted you are to buying things until you try to stop. I'd catch myself scrolling shopping apps out of boredom. I'd make up little stories in my head like, well, I need this one little thing because it's on sale. But I held the line. I deleted shopping apps from my phone. I packed my lunch. I stayed home on weekends. I avoided stores altogether. I even left my wallet in the glove compartment sometimes, just to keep temptation away. And something strange happened. About 2 weeks in, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. See, when you're always broke, it's easy to feel like life is just happening to you, like your money problems are some endless storm you're stuck in. But during that challenge, I realized, wait a minute, I'm not powerless. I'm not helpless. I just never gave myself the space to think differently. You start to see where your money was silently leaking out. You notice how often your purchases weren't about need. They were about numbing boredom, numbing stress, numbing the feeling of being behind in life. And the more I said no, the more clarity I gained. I got creative. I cooked more. I invited friends over instead of going out. I fixed things I would have normally replaced. And I wrote down every dollar I didn't spend. It wasn't easy, but it was empowering. That 30-day challenge didn't just save me a few $100. It completely rewired how I thought about money. Because here's the truth. You can't build wealth until you first respect money. And you can't respect money until you stop using it to fix feelings. The no spend challenge wasn't about being cheap. It was about reclaiming agency. And once I got a taste of that agency, of not being ruled by my impulses, I never wanted to go back. That was the first crack in the old version of me. Step two, track every dollar like a detective. Coming out of that 30-day no spend challenge, I felt different. Not rich, not fixed, but awake. For the first time in years, I wasn't spending on autopilot, and that small win gave me just enough confidence to ask myself the next hard question. Where the hell has all my money been going? So I did something I had never done properly before. I started tracking every single dollar. Not just rent, not just big bills. I'm talking every pack of gum, every late night Uber Eats order, every $4.99 subscription I forgot I signed up for, every vending machine soda at work. And let me be real with you, it was ugly. I thought I had a general sense of where my money was going. I mean, I wasn't buying Gucci bags. I wasn't flying first class. I was just living like a normal person, right? But when I sat down with my bank statements, highlighter in hand, it hit me like a freight train. I wasn't broke. I was just bleeding money from 1,000 tiny cuts. $12.99 for a streaming service I hadn't used in months. $7.89 on a random Tuesday because I didn't feel like packing lunch. 3.25 here, $8.50 there. It added up fast. And here's what I learned. Awareness changes everything. We like to think the problem is not enough income. And yeah, for some people, that's very real. But for a lot of us, the issue is leakage, not lack. We don't need to make six figures to get ahead. We need to see where our money is actually going. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I turned tracking into a daily habit, not a punishment, a practice, like a detective gathering clues, not to judge myself, but to understand myself. Every dollar has a job, and I wanted to know, are mine actually working for me or against me? I kept a small notebook in my bag. Every time I spent even $1, I wrote it down. Eventually, I switched to a budgeting app, but the important part wasn't the tool, it was the awareness. The power doesn't come from some fancy spreadsheet. It comes from consciousness, from finally facing the truth of your financial behavior, not the version you think is true, but the one your receipts will actually confirm. Because here's the thing, you can't change what you won't confront. And tracking every dollar, that's how I confronted me. That's when I started to realize it's not about being perfect, it's about being honest. And that honesty gave me a power I didn't know I had. It gave me clarity. It gave me a starting point. And that gave me hope. Step 3, make it automatic. Because willpower is overrated. Tracking every dollar woke me up. It gave me clarity, a kind of brutal, sobering clarity. But then came the real question. Now that I know where the money is going, what do I actually do about it? At first, I tried to budget harder, tried to resist more, be stronger, say no more often, and it worked. For about 2 weeks. Then stress hit, or life hit, or I just got tired. And suddenly, that one small, just this once, turned back into a pattern. That's when it clicked for me. Willpower fades. Systems don't. We love to think we just need to try harder. But the truth? Trying harder doesn't work when you're drained. It doesn't work after a rough day. It doesn't work when temptation's just one click away on your phone. So I stopped relying on discipline. I built a system instead. I set up automatic transfers the moment my paycheck landed. 10% straight into emergency savings, 5% into an investment account, bills auto-paid, rent auto-transferred. No more oops, I forgot. No more I'll save whatever's left. Spoiler, there's never anything left. And that one change, it flipped my entire financial script. I no longer had to think about saving. I just lived off what remained and shaped my lifestyle around that, not the other way around. And guess what? I finally felt like I was building something. Something stable. Something real. Like my money was finally working for me instead of me always chasing after it. Because here's the truth. Success with money isn't about staying motivated all the time. It's about building a system that keeps going, even when you don't feel like it. And that system, it gave me peace. It gave me space. It gave me proof, month after month, that I was actually making progress. I wasn't reacting to my money anymore. I was finally directing it. Step 4, learn how to make a dollar do the work of two. Automation gave me structure, but structure alone doesn't build wealth. After I stopped the bleeding, after I tracked every dollar and made saving automatic, I looked around and realized something painful. I was still standing in the same place, just a little less stressed. I wasn't sinking anymore, but I wasn't really moving forward either. And that's when the real shift happened. If I wanted a different life, my money couldn't just sit there. It had to work. I stopped seeing dollars as something to spend or even something to just save. Every single dollar had to prove its worth. It had to multiply. That meant getting creative. I didn't have thousands to throw into stocks or real estate, but I had something, $50, $100, enough to start small. I used some of it to buy online courses, learn new skills, basic graphic design, freelance writing, a little digital marketing. I started saying yes to random gigs, helping people build websites, editing resumes, driving Uber on the weekends. I sold stuff I didn't use anymore, flipped a few things on Facebook Marketplace. Was it glamorous? Not even close. But it was income, and more importantly, it was movement. I started seeing money differently, not as a result, but as a tool I could use to build something. I remember one weekend, I bought an old desk for $40, cleaned it up, and flipped it for $280. Yeah, it took effort, but that desk, that was proof. Proof that money can multiply if you give it direction. Here's what no one tells you. When you're broke, you don't need more discipline. You need momentum. You need $1 to become two, then two to become five. And that only happens when you assign your money a job. Not just survive, but grow. Start small. Use what you have. Build something, anything, that earns even while you sleep. Because the moment your money starts working for you, that's the moment you stop feeling like you're working against life. Step 5. Change who you listen to. Once I started making my dollars work, once I saw that even with a small income, I could build something, there was one last enemy I had to face. And it wasn't money. It was noise. See, growing up, I didn't learn about money from people who had it. I learned from people who struggled, just like me. People who said things like, money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are greedy. Just work hard and hope for the best. Sound familiar? The truth is, those ideas didn't come from bad people. They came from people doing their best. But their best came from survival, not strategy. And that kind of thinking, it sticks. It's subtle, but it shapes how you see the world and yourself without you even noticing. So I had to do something uncomfortable. I changed who I listened to. Not in a snobby way. I didn't cut off friends. I didn't act like I was better than anyone. But I stopped taking financial advice from people who weren't where I wanted to go. I stopped letting broke friends define what success should look like. I stopped following influencers whose only plan was to look rich online. Instead, I fed my brain better input. I listened to podcasts during my commute, real ones from people who built wealth quietly. I read books written by people who started at zero and climbed their way up. I joined online communities where people shared actual wins, not just hype and hustle quotes. At first, it felt weird. Some ideas were totally foreign. Some of them even felt uncomfortable. But slowly, my beliefs started to shift. I stopped thinking I'll always struggle and started thinking I can figure this out. Because here's the truth. Beliefs come before behavior. You don't suddenly start doing smart things with money until you believe you can. You don't invest until you believe you're the kind of person who invests. You don't build wealth until you believe you deserve to build wealth. And those beliefs? They come from what and who you allow into your mind. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need your whole family or friend group to cheer you on. But you do need to protect your mindset. You do need better voices in your head. Because once I made that shift, everything else started to click. Protect the gap, the most important thing no one talks about. By this point, I was finally starting to breathe. Money was flowing in. I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck anymore. I had systems. I had better habits. I was investing. I was even helping others do the same. But then, something surprising happened. The moment things got better, I started getting sloppy. You know what I mean, right? A little extra spending here, a random upgrade there. A few nights out, I deserve it. And before I knew it, that margin I had worked so hard to create, the space between what I earned and what I spent, started shrinking again. And that's when I learned probably the most important money lesson of my 30s. Wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. That gap, the space between your income and your lifestyle, that's your freedom. That's your opportunity. That's your future. And if you don't protect that gap, it will disappear. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly, comfortably. That's why people making $200K a year still feel broke, because lifestyle inflation is sneaky. You feel like you're upgrading your life, but really, you're just upgrading your expenses. So I got serious about protecting the gap. I gave myself a real spending limit. Even when I could technically afford more, I defined my enough. And I kept investing that gap into my future, not just financially, but in peace of mind, in time freedom, in generosity. And you know what? That's the moment I actually started feeling rich. Not when I bought something flashy, not when I hit a certain net worth, but when I had room to breathe, when I wasn't living at the edge anymore, when I had options. And honestly, that's what this whole journey was really about. Not just money, but freedom. Not just hustle, but healing, from broke and overwhelmed to intentional and in control. And if you're on that path too, no matter where you're starting, just know this: you're not behind, you're just beginning.